Today's episode has been brought to you by Schedulicity
and by pelvic health professionals. I am so excited, Connected Yoga teachers, because doors officially open today, which means that you can join the Pelvic Health Professionals membership. In there, you'll have access to a comprehensive and current library of pelvic health information, our monthly guest speaker calls, an 8-hour yoga for pelvic health training, live monthly Q&A calls, and also access to a really great support network of other pelvic health professionals. If you are a yoga teacher and you have wanted to learn about pelvic health and how that can support the students that you work with, come on over and check out pelvichealthprofessionals.com. There are also free resources over on the website, and one of those resources is actually today's topic. I'm going to share with you the pelvic symmetry sequence that I get asked for all the time. If you are new here, hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Shannon. I'm a mom of 3, a yoga teacher, and a trainer and consultant who works for yoga teachers. And this podcast was created for you so that you can connect to information and inspiration each and every week and feel supported as you navigate being a yoga teacher and also a business owner. If you are not new here, welcome back, and I want to give you a very quick update on my herniated disc recovery. So for those of you who don't know, at the beginning of August, I was unable to walk anywhere without crutches, and I was diagnosed with a herniated disc, and I've been doing many things along the way of this journey of recovery, and I'm still on that journey, but a huge update. I went for a walk this past week, just for walking, not for going to appointments, not for walking around my house or walking around out in our garden, but just to go outside for a walk. And I have to tell you that sometimes when things are taken away, for whatever reason, there's just an immense amount of gratitude that I have now for being able to go out for a walk by myself. Alrighty, so that's my quick update. If you want to find out more, you can follow me on Instagram. I like to post about getting outside each and every day because as it snows, which it's doing actually as I'm recording right now today, when the weather gets colder, I always have a harder time getting outside. And if you also do, or you just want to get outside more, you can follow me on Instagram. I usually start posting and start asking for inspiration, and it helps me to be held accountable to just get my coat on and go out, even if it's snowing or raining or doing whatever it does here in the winter in Canada. So if you're on Instagram, look for @theconnectedyogateacher and you'll find me there. Alrighty, let's dive into today's episode. I'm really excited because this is something I've wanted to share for a while and wasn't sure how to on the podcast. Years ago, I started having pelvic girdle pain after I had my 3 kids, and I found this pelvic symmetry sequence. This sequence has been adapted from Cecile Rost, who's a physical therapist, and Dr. Sinead Dufour, who's a physiotherapist here in Canada. I really love this sequence, and I would love it if you would actually try it out. So I'm going to cue you through it near the end of this. And also, there's a printable version. So if you really like it and you want to print it out for yourself, or you want to print it out for your yoga students to try out, I feel like it's this perfect mix of a sequence that builds strength and stability, but also mobility and flexibility. I have used this sequence in my own practice when my pelvis just feels like it's a little, off, or I want to say quote unquote out of alignment. Please know that your pelvis is such a strong and stable part of your body. If you want to hear more about this, Dr. Sinead Dufour has an amazing interview that she did a while back with us, talking all about pelvic girdle pain. One thing that I really gained from Dr. Sinead Dufour is really thinking about my pelvis being strong and stable, but sometimes being protective and sensitive. So whenever my pelvis is feeling protective and sensitive, or maybe I notice something in my low back or in my SI joint, this is a sequence that I will turn to again and again. Now, if you are dealing with any pelvic girdle pain, I cannot say enough how beneficial it is to go and see a PT. That's a physiotherapist here in Canada. It's a physical therapist in the US, and I'm not sure what it is across the rest of the world. But it is so beneficial to see a PT who specializes in pelvic health. There are a couple of websites if you're searching in Canada or the US, and I can make sure to link to those in our show notes. But also don't be afraid to ask your friends on social media, who are you seeing as a pelvic health PT? Or call some of the PTs in your area and ask who specializes in pelvic health. So I want to thank Cecile Rost for writing a book called Relieving Pelvic Pain During and After Pregnancy, for Dr. Sinead Dufour for really talking more about this with us on the podcast and also in different trainings I've been a part of, and for her version of this pelvic symmetry sequence. And I also want to give a huge shout out of thank you to Sue Pearson, who actually is the yoga model in these poses. And Sue and I got together and she shared her camera and also her insights all about pelvic alignment. So it's so fun when you can get together with a fellow yoga teacher who really understands what it's like to have a real body and deal with some of these things and then to try something like this out. So I have shared this sequence with hundreds of yoga students who say this has made a huge difference in their life. I remember this one woman came to see me one-on-one for yoga, and she had been dealing with, she called it hip pain. Anything around the pelvis, I call it pelvic girdle pain because I don't diagnose what is going on. I just call it overall pelvic girdle pain. So she had been dealing with this for years and was actually having a really hard time walking. So we worked together for one session. She had signed up for one session and I showed her this pelvic symmetry sequence. About 2 weeks later, she emailed me back to tell me that this was the first time in years that she hadn't had hip pain. She sent me an email a couple weeks later to say that this was the first time in years that she wasn't experiencing pain while she was walking. She said that she was doing the pelvic symmetry sequence a couple times a day, and it was making such a difference in her quality of life. Now, we know that pelvic girdle pain is extremely common. All you have to do is ask your students, like, where are you feeling discomfort or pain? And oftentimes they will tell us in my hips. Statistics tell us that 1 in 5 pregnant people can have pelvic girdle pain that continues postpartum. So as I said, if you want to hear more about that, go back to episode 75 with Dr. Sinead Dufour. And again, in that episode, we actually talk about the pelvic symmetry sequence. So if you're looking for the show notes and you're on the go, don't worry. We take the notes for you. Head on over to theconnectedyogateacher.com/193 to see all of that. Now, before we get into the symmetry sequence, I want you to grab a couple of blankets or bolsters or pillows, something that will help you to feel really nurtured in the sequence because we're going to do a recline butterfly. So find some space on the floor, and while you get ready to do this sequence, I want to do a couple shout outs of thanks. First of all, to our sponsor, Schedulicity, let's hear our hot tip of the week.
Hey there, Connected Yoga Teachers. This is Emily with the Schedulicity Hot Tip of the Week. When you create and market yoga teacher training through Schedulicity, we can help you capture your students' impulse to book. Once you've created your workshop, it's a great idea to enable the payment add-on and choose to collect a deposit, full prepayment, or a credit card number at the time of online booking. This way, that money will go into your bank account when a client books, or if they don't show up, you can charge them based on the no-show policy you've created. Knowing that payment is taken care of allows you to put all of your mental energy into helping your students become the next generation of excellent teachers.
Thank you so much, Team Schedulicity. And I also wanted to give a shout out of thank you to Dee Webb, a fellow Canadian from Okotoks, Alberta. Dee says, "You have been an invaluable resource as I set up my business in a way that aligns with my beliefs. I love the support and ideas offered by you and all your knowledgeable guests on how to run a yoga business, make money, and still be of service. You cover so many topics I had not thought of as a new yoga entrepreneur that does not have a lot of experience with computers or marketing. You've also ignited a passion in me for pelvic health. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm having a coffee with a friend every time I listen. I'm out of episodes, so I guess I will have to re-listen. Have an amazing day, Dee. Thank you so much for leaving this, Dee, near the beginning of this year. I feel like sometimes we're really reaching back into our testimonials to share them, but it just means so much that you took the time to leave a review. Okay, connected yoga teachers, I hope that you're ready to do some yoga. We don't always do this on the podcast, and I'm really excited because this is literally one of my favorite sequences. Now know that you can always pause right here and come back to this part at any time. We have clickable timestamps, so I'm going to do my best just to cue this sequence, and you won't have to hear me chit-chatting along the way. You'll just be able to come right back to the spot where the sequence begins and have a listen again whenever you'd like to be led through this sequence. When you're ready, find your way down to the earth, coming down to lie down on your back, bringing with you either a couple of rolled blankets or folded blankets, pillows, or bolsters, something that will support you in reclined butterfly. So you're lying on your back, the knees are bent, the soles of the feet are together, and really move the blankets around or the pillows or bolsters, whatever you're using. Move them around underneath the thigh bone or underneath the hips in a way that really allows you to find support and comfort. Allow the arms to be heavy and supported by the earth. Allow the jaw to relax. And while you're in reclined butterfly right now, you are going to notice, how are things feeling between the left side and the right side? Are you noticing any differences, any similarities? Is there any stretch sensation or any other sensation? Knowing that if there is discomfort, if it is not feeling like you're in the right spot here, to move around in whatever way offers you comfort. So take a mental snapshot of how you're feeling right now, because we're going to come back to this check-in and notice any differences. As we start to move in the sequence, each movement will happen on the exhale. Each time that we effort will be the exhale. So staying exactly as you are here in butterfly, reclined butterfly, find a gentle inhale. And as you push your outside edge of your feet into the floor for stability here, exhale and notice the pelvis either lifting off of the floor, or notice the engagement muscles required to lift the pelvis off the floor. As you inhale, you're going to release those muscles and lower the pelvis down. And there's no destination here with how high the pelvis lifts off the floor. We're more so trying to find an exhale, let the pelvis lift, or engage those lift muscles. And on the inhale, lower down. And if there's any discomfort happening, simply just engage those muscles and then release them on the inhale. And you'll do this 3 or 4 times. So again, the exhale is where the lift happens, and the inhale is where the pelvis lowers back down towards the earth. Finishing that in your own time. This flow, this sequence is meant to take lots of time. When you've finished that butterfly lift 3 or 4 times, bring the soles of your feet towards the floor. The knees are bent and up towards the sky. And you can walk the feet in towards each other until the feet are touching or close to each other. What we want is just a nice gentle touch of the legs. So the inside of the legs are going to be touching. The knees are bent and the feet are on the floor. Find your inhale here. Notice the rib cage expanding on that inhale. And on the exhale, you're going to press the knees in towards each other or press the legs in towards each other. On the inhale, you'll relax that press and maybe even find this micro movement side to side on that inhale. On the exhale, again, the knees are going to press towards each other. And on the inhale, we release that press. And there's the option to have this tiny, tiny rocking side to side happen here. Next exhale, press the knees in towards each other. And on the inhale, release that press. Walking your feet out away from each other a little bit so that the feet are about hip distance or whatever is your comfortable place for a small bridge. You're going to relax the pelvis down into the earth here. Find your inhale as the rib cage expands on that inhale. And as you exhale, you're either going to engage the muscles that would lift you into bridge and stay down on the earth, or possibly lift up into a bridge pose, but see if you can make it closer to the ground than you're used to. Lowering down on the inhale. And when the next exhale comes, just allowing yourself to flow back up into that bridge pose. Maybe imagine what it's like if there was a yoga mat right at the pelvic bones at the front, just pressing you down a little tiny bit. Lowering down on the inhale, and one more time we're going to exhale and lift up into a tiny baby bridge. And inhale, lower the pelvis down. And when you're ready, coming back to that reclined butterfly, and we're just going to check in and see, do we notice a difference? Seeing if there is some difference from when we started. And you have the option here of going through the whole flow again, 1 or 2 more times. I usually tell people, try this flow 3 times through. So we've done it once. You can do it 2 more times. And there is a printable. If you need the visual of these poses, there's a printable PDF in our show notes. And I am so curious to hear from you. Once you take this sequence and you try it out for yourself, maybe you decide to share it on social media. If you do, I would love it if you tag me in that. Maybe you change it in some way that really suits you or someone you're working with. I would also love to hear that feedback. You'll notice that if you are used to inhaling, when you lift into your bridge, maybe it takes a little bit of work here to try the exhale. And there is a reason for the exhale and lift. I talk about it in other podcasts, and we also talk about it inside of Pelvic Health Professionals. It's not that there is a right and a wrong way to breathe in this at all, but notice if there's some resistance to that exhale and lifting up into bridge. Notice if there's a pattern set up in the brain of this inhale and lift up into bridge. And if you're interested in learning more about pelvic health and how we can help our students with their pelvis and their pelvic health, come on over and check things out at pelvichealthprofessionals.com. So like I said, this is one of our free resources. Anyone can download this pelvic symmetry sequence. And we also have a lot of other podcasts about pelvic health and articles and so many other resources there for you. I wonder if you also notice something else about the sequence. I often find that with the breath and the movement really coordinated together. So if I really get students to focus on that, inhale, we're going to do this, and exhale, we're going to do that, and they get into the flow and they get to know this sequence really well, it is so calming for the nervous system. So I wonder if you noticed that as well as you went through this sequence. Another thing I hear from a lot of yoga students is that they are not used to doing this butterfly lift. So from recline butterfly, it's like we use new muscles. And that gets me really excited when I can find a movement or a breath practice or something that challenges the brain, gets it to think in a new way. Alrighty, connected yoga teachers, it is time for me to sign off right now. I want to give a huge shout out of thank you to you for tuning in and taking the time to listen and to learn something that maybe you can add to your own practice or share with your students. Also, thank you to our team over here, Suzanne, Crunch, Nick, and Sinead. I am just so grateful for all of you. And I want to hear from you, connected yoga teachers. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?